Hey, welcome or welcome back. Today we're going to talk about building an app as a non-technical founder, which means that you don't have the technical skill to build an app. So why would you possibly want to do such a thing? Full disclaimer here, I actually do have a technical background, but I am not a software developer. What does that mean? Well, I started back in my career as a back-end developer. And if you know what it means, it just means that I do the part that is not seen by the user, like the data movement and the database part and all that stuff. But with the growth of my career, I actually stopped being a developer. And so now that I'm building my own app, which is Delegate, by the way, you can go check it out on www.delegate.io. I've had to figure out, how do I build this app without me being the developer doing the actual work? If you don't know me, I have been in technology my whole career, and I actually love technology since I can remember. I used to be the girl with the dad playing with unassembling and reassembling computers back in the day. My dad was actually a big influence in my technical career. He used to be the type of professional or like self-taught entrepreneur that would like read the whole manual of like Windows 95 and the hardware and figure out how to do this and that. He even make a whole program, a whole accounting program in Access. You remember Access, like the database software? Yes, in Access, to manage his orders, his clients, and everything in invoices and everything in between. He was like OG, one of the smartest person I knew, and he learned how to do this. He's taught himself how to do this before even it was like a thing to do this. And so my big influence in my career and why I love tech so much comes from my experiences with him. My first program I actually developed was a database management to manage my friends and the contacts for my friends. And that was like at age, 9. And it was so cool. I loved it. And I could not, since then I could have not done anything else actually. So that is my motivation of why I love tech so much. And then beyond that, I'm actually like a huge idea person. And so I love just thinking of ideas that could go on the internet that people will love. A few of my first ideas, and I think maybe this is also why you're looking at this video, is because you have ideas that you want to develop and you think it would be really, really, really cool to develop, and nobody has invented them yet, or they're not quite there yet. And I encourage you to follow those ideas because the internet is a huge opportunity. And if you wanted to create an app, that would be like really, really cool. So one of my first ideas, like I was saying, it was this app that I used to have dogs. And so this app would basically like tell other dog owners that I was gonna go walk my dog so we could walk the dogs together, because I think like dogs playing together was really, really nice, especially in places that were more suburban and isolated when people don't have like maybe a dog park. We used to just take the dogs in like a huge like field in the back of this like suburban place where there was like a river and everything, and so the dogs just used to play there. But it was really hard to coordinate with other people, first of all, and then also like I didn't want to exchange for a number because we were not that type of friends, but we were just like dog friends. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but yeah, it was like the meetup version for dog owners to meet up and play with dogs and be like, hey, okay, like I'm here, like I'm going to go for a walk with a dog, let me know if you want to come out and play, and try to coordinate time with other dog owners. Between that and like a million other ideas, I have finally settled on the startup that I want to build. And when I went out and started thinking about like, how am I going to do this, I actually faced a lot of issues because again, I am not a software developer and I'm not going to try to figure out how to make this app all on my own. So I looked at a couple of options based on what the internet said, and yet it is quite a challenge. So I'm going to tell you the options that you may want to explore, and I have explored as a non-technical founder, so that you can also maybe benefit from this video. The first thing I want you to think about when you have an idea and you want to build an app for it is, what is the purpose of this idea? How are you planning to help people? Why would this app even exist at all in the market? How many people do you think would want to buy this app? And just going through the exercise of putting all this information together will clear any thoughts or doubts you may have. But what it also do is make your app very specific. I suggest any one app. Well, let me just back up for a second. What I think and what the advice is on the internet is a little bit different, okay? So advice on the internet says any one app should solve one problem. If you think about it, most of the app that we have now on our phones solve one specific problem, right? So you don't have email and calendars together. They're two separate apps. You don't have like you may have an app that gives you recipes and then an app that like teaches you how to cook. You may have one app where you can watch videos, and then you can have one app that you can read content, right? So most apps on the market try to solve one problem. Why is that? Is because it's much easier to build. If you're solving one problem specific, you will have an easier time building the app and also finding the customers for your one app. The disadvantages of it is, if you're like me and you have tons of idea and you want this app to be all expensive and all amazing, it's hard to nail down what exactly you want this app to do. If you have one idea that solves one problem, you're already good, okay? Fast forward this part. If you have one idea that solves multiple problems, or like one app that would want to touch multiple problems, here's what I suggest. Write down each and one of the problems into a list, and then talk to people and prioritize which problem you're gonna go solve first. So we're going to still start with one problem, but we're going to slowly introduce the rest of the problems a little bit later. Okay, here we go. Once you have your problem and your why would this app even exist, right? And you know that to your core and it feels good, then, well, you can start talking about it and test it out. Listen, the worst thing you can do is keep it to yourself, because you're gonna get no feedback from anybody and not understand if it even hits the mark. And if you're worried about people stealing your idea, do not worry about that. You're unique. The way you're gonna solve this problem is unique to you. Nobody could ever steal an idea from you. An additional point to that is most people don't execute. Most people just have ideas and never do anything about it. So if you're the one who has an idea and also has the follow through to build this idea, you're like ahead of like 90% of the population. I'll tell you this right now. So don't worry. Talk about it, experiment it, pitch it. Talk to your friends, talk to your mom, talk to your dad, pitch it. Don't get validation from people. Try to ask them, why wouldn't this work for you? Ask them, what problems do you see with this? Why wouldn't you use it? Would you use it or not? Give me the honest feedback. And really, by getting this information, all positive, negative, and everything in between, you get a better sense of actually what you want to build. The point here is we want to get a clear idea of what we're going to build and why. Okay, once you know why you want to build and why, we're going to try to figure out what we call features that this app will have. Features is basically at least a list of abilities that the user can do. You can do this, okay? It's easy. I'll tell you why you can. You can do this because you have the expertise of having used app to create this list. So you're gonna sit down at the computer and think of every one ability the user can do with the app. So you can say the user can log in to my app. The user can recover a password, create a password, recover a password. The user can view X, Y, and Z. The user can push on a button like this and do X. The user can, okay, this is called user stories. Okay, this product management 101. These are called a list of user stories, right? And the list of user stories is going to be really, really long, hopefully. Hopefully it's not like 2 stories. You have, I don't know, anywhere between like at least 10 to maybe 50. Anything you can think of, just type it up, spend like 30 minutes, just brain dump of everything. If you're more of a visual person, you can draw it. You can draw the screen, imagine your app, visualize your app, close your eyes, draw the screen, and then for each activity, right, you could draw a screen and say, okay, this is what this does, this is what this does, this is how I envision my app. Both things can work. And this basically creates a set of requirements for anyone who you're gonna find to build the app to really be able to hit those targets. The muddier these requirements are, the less able whomever you're going to hire are going to be able to hit the mark that you want. So make sure that you're quite specific. If it's unclear, make it clearer, make it more specific. If you want it to be blue, say blue. If you want it to be black, say black, right? Whatever you can to add details to it so that the person that is building it doesn't have to ask you a question or think about it, the better. And again, you can do this because you have the experience of having used phones and computers for at least two to three decades, depending on your lifetime, I guess, to be able to give these requirements to somebody and actually have them build them. I feel like up until this point, it's all you work, right? You can take literally one day and do all of this, depending on how clear your idea is. This is the part where it becomes a little bit trickier, because now we're going to go out and try to find people who are going to actually build this app. But before we jump into that, I want to make sure that we validate your idea. Okay? So, why do we want to validate the idea? Well, I think it's simple. You can either choose to build it and not have anyone want it, or spend all that money and then find out that nobody wants your app, or you can try to see what is the interest in the market for your app. Most people, or most serious companies, I guess, will choose to do number 2. So how do you validate an idea? Well, okay, we can do a couple of things. The first thing, I think maybe the easiest thing, is you can build a website for your app. And yes, you can do this. There are many, many website builders that are very easy to make, where you can build a website for your app and publish it on the internet and drive ads to it by spending like a few $100 to see if people click on your website, want your app, sign up for your website. And you're basically going to pretend to do a launch of an app, and you can say something like, hey, I am building this app, because you are technically building it. Please sign up if you're interested in getting it, or in getting notified when the app becomes available on the market. And then they will have an email link or email subscribe thing, and they can subscribe to your thing. And then from there, you're already building your customers even before your app is built. In this type of testing process, you would actually get a sense if people want this or don't want it, which is great, because you can pivot from there and you can change it, or you can figure out what to do if this is not working. You would not waste any more time on this. I will also have to say that this step can be quite heartbreaking. Like, having nobody want your app right off the bat could be like, it was for me. It's for me. Like, it's hard, right? Like, if you just have a website out there doing nothing, like, it doesn't work. You need to drive traffic to this, and you need to make sure that people are seeing this so that they can understand it. But even if they're seeing it and they don't sign up, I mean, that can be hard. But understand that this is needed so that you can have a more realistic view of what's going to happen potentially in the future. Now, I also have to say there are many companies that have built something, nobody wanted it, and they still build it and become successful. Sometimes it is hard for a user to know that they want it until they've touched it and play with it. Sometimes the devil is in the details. It is like, well, a lot of users may not want to risk signing up for something before it's actually here. So you can decide, it's up to you whether you want to take a chance on yourself and on this idea that you have, and I suggest you do, and really push through regardless of what the feedback is. If you think it's a solid idea, if your heart is truly in it, if you believe it, if you cannot stop thinking about it, if it comes back over and over and over again, please build it. Because regardless of what happens next, you would have gained so much experience through this process that maybe not this one, maybe the next one is going to be the amazing project that will achieve all your dreams. Okay, another way to validate it, which also takes us to the app building process and finding a person to build it, is we'll need two things, okay? The first one is we'll need a designer to build the app. This is called UX UI, and I feel like this part is quite easy. You just go on Fiverr or Upwork, find a designer that you can afford, that looks good to you, and have them build, based on your requirements, have them build all of the visuals. This is a visual application. Sometimes what they will do is use Figma, a tool called Figma, to build a prototype. Prototype is basically, imagine like a PowerPoint just of an app. You would like, it will look like an app, but it will be a visual app, and then you can click on it, but it doesn't do everything, but it feels like it does. It's kind of like clicking on a PowerPoint when there's some type of animation. Yeah, that's what they'll build. They'll build a visual, interactive app so that you can use it to test it with user. You can put it on your website for added incentives. You can to add interest, right? Because if users see it, then it's cooler, and if they interact with it, that's cool. You could send it to potential investors. There's so many things that you can do just by building a prototype. We call it a prototype of this app. And added bonus, a prototype doesn't cost much. You can build a prototype for less than $500, maybe less, depending how many screens you need and things like that. So build a prototype, look at it, feel it, touch it, see if it's what you like, all those things, okay? That's your next step. Last but not least, we're gonna go find somebody who can actually build the app. What does that mean? It lives on the App Play Store. It takes on customer data. User can actually download it and put it on their phones and all that stuff. That's the actually building of the app. I have found that this process is quite hard for many reasons. One, I don't have many funds available to me, right? So I am self-funding my app right now, and I cannot just spend like thousands of euros or dollars in making an app. So I've had to get really creative. The first option you do have, if you do have funds to build this yourself or fund it yourself, is you could hire an app development company. There are many app development companies all over the world. You can pick whether they're in the US, they could be in Mexico, they could be in Eastern Europe, they could be in Europe. Depending on what you like, they could be a flavor of things. If you just want to go to an app development studio and have them build the full app, they will likely refine the design. They will likely talk to you about what's the process. It may take, 3 to 6 months to do an MVP, what we call the minimum viable product, which is like the first version of your app. And you can definitely do this. If you want to know how to vet these companies or how to find more companies, let me know. I can always provide my recommendations. I have quite a few that are really, really good. If you do not have a lot of funds like me, we're going to have to get creative, okay? So one option is to, again, go on Fiverr or Upwork and look at the cost of building this app. Now, the cool thing about this is that you already have a prototype. So you can send them the prototype and say, quote this app for me. And you can go through this process with like 10 to 15, I don't know, however you have the capacity of 10 to 15 developers on Upwork or Fiverr, and see what they come back with. Do they say it's possible? What technologies are they going to use? And all that stuff. Ask questions. Ask like, how long do you think it's going to take? What are the technologies you're going to build? What are the platforms I'm going to build? This app is going to be available on. Is it going to be on Android, iPhone, and web, or is it just going to be one or all of them? It's it's up to your conversations with them and what do you want. Remember, you do have some understanding of technical abilities because you have interacted with other apps on the market. And if you want to send them examples of other apps in the market that you like, please do. Like, use everything at your disposal, get creative, and send them as much information as possible to get a quote. Once you have different quotes, I would say at least 3 to 5 minimum, you can compare them to each other, right? And then ask questions based on that, and ask them like, hey, I got this quote from this other person and this is how much they charge. Why do you think? What is the difference between your price and their price? Do you have a team or you working solo? All those questions are going to be relevant. And basically, I'm going to tell you this, that without any technical knowledge, you can pick a good provider by having a conversation with them. Get them on a Google Hangout, get them on Zoom, have a 15-minute conversation and get a vibe. Understand their team dynamics, understand what projects they've made in the past, get samples of those projects, and that's it. This is going to take you 1 week. 1 week to do. Not an issue. Get it done. The part that is difficult about finding somebody on Upwork and Fiverr is the delivery part. They tend to always slide the delivery. They tend to always try to the quality may not be as good as if you went to an app development studio. And here's where you're gonna have to be involved and make sure that on a daily basis, on at least on every 2 days, you check in with them gently about their process and how the progress is going. In Fiverr is quite easy because you may have milestones of delivery, so you can check things off as they happen. But remember, it may be a struggle to get this app built. I have found that between hiring, I've hired over 5 people on Fiverr to try to get my app done, and 4 of them have failed, and maybe this is the 5th one. I don't know how it's gonna go. It's going right now, not good, not very well, but it's going. So I'll let you know. It's a struggle. I've lost months, a couple of months on this already, just because I've hired somebody that didn't work, I hired somebody that didn't work, and I haven't lost any money. Mostly I've lost time, which is fine. If I have basically almost no budget for this, I can afford to lose time. It's gonna take longer. It's up to you. It's a trade-off, right? Another way we can build an app that is not on Fiverr is to finding students. So you can reach out to your local universities or student groups or boot camps, what they call the development boot camps, and trying to figure out if they need a project to get done. And again, here what you're trying to build is the basic app, right? You're not trying to build everything. You're trying to build something that is functional that you can put out in the market. And so students is a great way of doing this because usually either they're free or very cheap, and they do this for credit or for projects. And then you have the better advantage that a lot of the times they're supervised by more senior helpers or teachers or assistant professors. So they have a more likely chance to actually deliver something. Reaching out to students and getting them involved into your project is going to be a little bit of a harder task. So that's, I think, the difference between Fiverr and students is reaching out and finding the students is harder, but then they'll have a higher chance and higher quality to deliver. On Fiverr, it's very easy to reach out and do all this stuff, but then the delivery portion is going to be quite hard. So you pick your devil, I guess. You pick whatever you want to struggle with, and then just go ahead with that. I hope this video was useful to you, and I hope you subscribe and follow me for more information.